We are just 54 days away from the election as the presidential campaigns look to win over voters in possible swing states. Right now, the CBS News Battleground tracker shows former Vice President Joe Biden is holding a 10-point lead at 52%, with support for President Trump at 42%. However, there are still 6 critical swing states up for grabs ahead of the election, including Florida, North Carolina, and Iowa. And tonight, the president is holding a campaign rally in Freehold, Michigan, where he hopes to regain momentum in the historically purple state. Dave Weigel is a national political correspondent for the Washington Post. He is there in Freeland, I'm told, and he joins us now. Hi there, Dave. We can hear some ambient noise behind you, but you're at the site of President Trump's rally in Freeland, Michigan. He won that state back in 2016 over Hillary Clinton with just over 47% of the vote. What's changed since then?
Well, since then, you had a midterm election. The Democrats did very well in the state. And you've had some policy victories for the president, but you also had a lot of alienating policies. And the president, frankly, took what became the politically unpopular side with the COVID and the mask debate. And the president was saying in April that the state should reopen. The voters have basically been supportive of the tough but so far effective restrictions that were put in place. You also had, and this is true in a lot of the states, especially in the Midwest, you had a fall-off of people who might have voted third party in 2016, splitting off mostly to Joe Biden and to Democrats. And so you had a couple of cross-currents in the president's direction.
Well, in 2016, Republicans had a strong showing across the state. However, during the 2018 elections, Democrats swept elections for every statewide office and picked up 2 additional House seats. What does that mean for 2020?
Yeah, that election's really the baseline for what Democrats are doing. One thing that Democrats in this state say is mea culpa. They didn't work hard enough in 2016. A lot of them will blame Hillary Clinton for taking the state for granted, for not pulling in the resources that they really needed in the final push. They just didn't think the state was losable. Democrats since then have built a fairly massive ground game, and it's moved digital, obviously. They have not been back knocking on doors, but they've increased turnout in their hardcore areas in Oakland County, Washington County, and City of Lansing, City of Grand Rapids. And they've not lost much more ground. They've actually gained some back in exurban and rural areas. So by no means is it a big flood state for them, but that 2018 model where they won back a lot of voters just by working for it, that's informed the Democratic strategy here. And the Republican strategy has been to find potential Republicans, people who didn't vote in 2016, but maybe some former Democrats, maybe some independents, and turn them into Trump voters. But they haven't really been pulling from people who voted Democratic in the midterm.
Yeah, apologies, Dave. It's a little hard to hear you, but I'm going to forge ahead here. The CBS News Battleground tracker currently shows former Vice President Biden in the lead in Michigan at 53% over President Trump, who's polling at 45% in Michigan. Where does the Biden campaign need to focus their efforts most?
Well, when the former Vice President in the state this week, probably the key swing county in the state, the northern suburbs of Detroit and a little bit further. And he's going to spend more efforts there. Democrats are also trying to add to their margins in Kent County around Grand Rapids, a place that had been kind of a bastion of more moderate Republicans and has moved since. And they've tried to add back votes, not so much in the rural areas they used to win, like the Upper Peninsula, but in cities like Kalamazoo and Battle Creek. And just, again, their thinking is that the majority is there for Democrats, and they just didn't pull it out in 2016. And that could be overconfidence, but that's their strategy. There's not really any apologizing or switching positions or going to people that they think they need to win back on a policy. It's running very similar agenda to 2016, but with the extra context of an unpopular president.
And very quickly, Dave, how is Governor Gretchen Whitmer factoring into that equation? Is she coming up at all? And I know you just sort of got there, but various points. We have heard President Trump, for instance, talk about Governor Whitmer in pretty pointed terms, and then we've heard Governor Whitmer be very front and center and go on national television shows, for instance, and kind of fire right back. So they've both been sort of back and forth, especially as this pandemic has unfolded. Is that something that is expected to play a role at all in the presidential contest?
Well, Governor Whitmer is doing more public events for Democrats than Joe Biden is. He was in the state this week. He'll be back a few times. But she and the mayor of Detroit, Mike Duggan, she's led a more robust campaign for Biden than I think the presidential campaign will be able to. And she also, I've said before, has been popular. I mean, it's been she had a tough first year without getting into the details of why, and she really did bounce during the coronavirus pandemic response. So there are rural areas that voted against her where she's been terrible. The mask policies, the mandatory shutdowns have been incredibly unpopular. But in most of the state, with most voters, she's got approval ratings above 55%, around 60%. So she's mostly an asset to Biden and a very active surrogate for him inside the state. I mean, she's a national co-chair too. And so any fight between her and Trump, Democrats are happy to have.
All right, before we let you go, just one more for you. You had Senator Kamala Harris traveling to another battleground state, Florida, this afternoon for a campaign event. According to the CBS News Battleground tracker, Joe Biden is leading in Florida, 52 to 47%. What are the big issues there in the Sunshine State?
Well, you saw one of them the president acted on this past week. He reversed his own reversal of the Obama policy against coastal drilling. That's a winner in Florida. It was a winner for Biden. He's going to try to take that issue from him. You see in South Florida, and really only South Florida, Republicans spending months trying to win back Latino voters, conservative Cuban Americans, on the argument that this Joe Biden's Democratic Party is so far left, and if he wins, it's the far left that'll be running the country. That's not really a policy issue per se, but those are the main things. When it comes to the rest of it, environmental policy and also gun policy, remember the party shooting, the Biden campaign is running a fairly suburban-focused, Social Security-focused, kind of quality of life campaign in Florida, and that's kept them ahead, if not dominant.
All right. Well, Dave Weigel at the rally site there in Freeland, Michigan. Dave, thank you so much for bearing with us. Really appreciate it. Good to see you.
I'm sorry for the difficulty. Thank you.